Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Stoker. We've got a fun show for you today, and for my opening kind of monologue that I want to share with you all, I've been going through this really interesting thing. So I have been working on improving my LinkedIn strategy, and of course, you guys know at this point that I've been leveraging Claude to do it because I just can't help myself. Claude is touching everything that I do. But one of the things that I've done is expanded on the written content that I've been putting out there. And one of the pieces of feedback that I got from Claude when I had to audit my LinkedIn channel was that I'm releasing too many just clips of the show as opposed to providing more variety and content types. And so I've been doing that. I've been releasing a lot more written content with the things that I'm passionate about. And it's been an interesting kind of seeding platform for me to post a high volume of content and then see if something resonates with the audience. And then when I'm finding something that resonates, it's a great topic for my monologue at the beginning of each show. So to give you a little bit kind of behind the scenes here of what I'm doing, I'm kind of testing a high volume of different types of content that I'm passionate about on LinkedIn. And when something really goes and sparks a discussion, that's when I know, okay, maybe this is worth doing a monologue. And so my most recent post that fits kind of the description that I've given you there was a post about how I truly believe that DMOs need to do a much better job of storytelling and communication within the destination to engage residents, business stakeholders, and political stakeholders. I'm seeing destinations all over the industry who currently either have funding under attack or even relevance under attack. And if I was to diagnose it as a single issue that's leading to these attacks that are happening all over the industry, I would say is that there's too much of a disconnect between the community the DMO serves and the DMO. And most times that I've seen that, it's because the communication is not happening correctly. We're spending so much time focused on external visitation, trying to get visitors to the destination. I mean, that's our mission, right? That's our role. But the problem is if we don't have that connection with the community, our ability to do that at some point will come under attack. And so we've got to reprioritize and make sure that our locals is one of the audiences that we treat with as much care and attention that we do the different visitor profiles that we're targeting when we run our marketing campaigns. And so as I thought about that, of course, one of the things that you cannot miss when you're looking at the local community is that visiting friends and relatives is probably for almost every destination in the country the highest converting category of visitation that you have. People want to visit family. They visit, especially people that live in a cool place. And so in a lot of destinations, according to Longwoods International, we're talking 50+% of visitation in a lot of destinations comes from visiting friends and relatives, and yet we're not talking to them as DMOs. And that disconnect, it's easy to notice, okay, well, maybe our funding will be under attack. But if our mission is to generate visitation and we're ignoring the mechanism that leads to 50% plus of our visitation, we're no longer just talking about the fact that that our community needs to hear our message so we can be relevant. You get ROI on communicating with your local community because visiting friends and relatives is such a major category. So a lot of what causes people to have pride in their community, a lot of what causes people to support the DMO is them understanding that you as a DMO have created a better quality of life for them as a result of the work that you're doing in tourism. And so how do you actually do that? How do you build community pride? And I want to go through some of the things that I think would be really valuable in helping to build community pride. Number one, I touched on it a little bit earlier. You must treat your locals like one of the target personas that you put as much time and attention into as you do the external personas that you're trying to draw in. Treat them like a persona that you need to understand what messaging is most effective for them, what benefits do they receive from tourism, and run an actual integrated marketing campaign. And I know that I'm going to get some people saying, well, we're not allowed from a funding perspective to market within the destination from a paid advertising standpoint. Well, paid advertising is one of the 4 media types that you can use to target an audience. We've got paid media, of course, I mentioned that, earned media, where you can have a PR effort within your community, shared media, your social channels, and then, of course, owned media. So if you can't run paid media within the community, leverage the other 3. But you have to have an active campaign where you're communicating to them the value that they get from tourism. And it's an integrated campaign like you would run to any other target persona. And the message has to map what they need from the DMO. The second thing that I would say is, in this campaign, when you build this campaign, put residents in the storytelling. They are the hero of the story. So you need to be telling stories of residents that connect to the tourism community in some way, shape, or form. I've seen a lot of destinations doing this in the form of a podcast where they're actually connecting the stories of the residents to the visitors. What a great platform, and what a great value to add to local residents by putting them in the campaign. And remember, part of what builds community pride is they see themselves in the campaign. They see themselves represented in the community. So put residents in your campaign. The third thing that I would say is, I believe that resident sentiment is one of the things that you have to measure just as vigorously as you measure visitor sentiment. And resident sentiment is going to be the barometer by which you can measure, am I truly making an impact on community pride, on the sentiment of the residents towards tourism? It also needs to be a two-way conversation. I've seen destinations create resident advisory groups or local advisory groups where they consistently get feedback from the community on what they need from tourism. And then the people who are on that advisory committee get to actually see their ideas and comments and concerns represented in the messaging that goes out to the community. I also think, we talk about authenticity ad nauseum in this industry. We need to be honest about some of the trade-offs that come along with tourism. So, for example, yes, it might be tougher to get a dinner reservation on a Friday or Saturday night if you're a local member of the community because there's so many visitors in town. But guess what? You wouldn't have the restaurant if tourism wasn't there. So we need to communicate the trade-off and be honest about, yes, there's some negatives that come along with it, but the positives outweigh the negatives every single time. But if residents are just focused on the negatives, of course, that's going to create a little bit of a disconnect. The other thing that I would say is we're creating merch. Almost every destination is creating merch. Are we creating merch that locals want to wear, that they're proud of, that they feel like actually represents them? If they don't feel enough a part of the brand where they want to wear the merch that you're creating, it's a great way to evaluate, do they have pride in the community that they live in? And so I actually would treat merch almost like a research project, right? Where you can see by whether or not residents want to wear and buy the merch, if they find value in your organization and if it's adding value to their lives. So merch is actually an interesting point where you can measure some of that resident sentiment and community pride. And then the last thing that I would say is just make sure that when you can, you hire from within the community, and then you tell the story of the community members you hired and be very public about why you're hiring from the community, and now you're providing jobs to locals and providing additional value to the locals. So I just really feel strongly about the need right now, when there's so many funding attacks going on, when visiting friends and relatives are such an important part of our visitor base, or at least the trigger by which people decide to visit. We have to do a better job of communicating with an integrated marketing and communication strategy to our local community and demonstrating the benefit that we're bringing to the community. And I think the result is going to be community pride that leads to protected funding and additional visitation. Everybody wins. And I really feel like that's going to provide a ton of benefit to everybody that's listening if you can implement that type of a strategy. And with that, I want to bring in our guest. I'm really excited to have him with us today. His name's Jesse Salazar, and Jesse is the video production manager at Visit Lodi. Jesse, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So before we dive into you and your backstory and all of that, I would love to have you maybe react to you're, if I remember correctly, you're relatively new to the destination marketing space. Do me a favor and react to my opening monologue.
Yeah, a lot of really great points in there, and I definitely resonate with the storytelling aspect of it. Um, Getting to know the residents of the community and telling those stories is really what makes a place special. You know, having things to do is fantastic and reasons to come visit, but really learning about the story of the person who runs that place or the story of someone who helped build the place or any aspect of that is what can really keep people coming back. I know myself sometimes, I may just go to a specific restaurant because I really resonate with the story of the owner, or I've become good friends of a person at a certain business. So telling those stories I think can be really important and help draw people to a destination rather than just things to do.
I love it. I love it. Well, Jesse, I was introduced to you by Wes Ray, and Wes and I have been friends for a long time. He's the present CEO at Visit Lodi. And Wes, he's always been known as a trailblazer in the destination marketing industry. He's like the early adopter OG, and a lot of the technologies that we have in the space today are a result of Wes being willing to take a risk. And I really appreciate his willingness to try things. And I would imagine from a cultural perspective, the expectation is that if he's going to be an early adopter, his team also needs to be prepared and willing to be an early adopter. So tell us a little bit about your background and how you got connected with Wes, and then we'll talk about your role.
Yeah, so I've been filming videos since about 2013. I started because I used to play the drums a lot. I don't really play much anymore, but just kind of was into the YouTube thing back in the day and was filming myself playing drums, and then wanted to get better camera equipment so the videos could look cooler. And then from there, I ended up filming my buddy's wedding, and that just kind of took off. And then I just fell into the wedding industry. And I've been filming weddings for about 13 years now. And weddings, I think, was a really fantastic place to start because it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of just run and gun. You know, there's not any retakes. I can't be like, "Hey, I missed that. Can you guys kiss again at the altar?" Like it doesn't work like that. So you have to really learn to work under pressure and to be able to capture things efficiently and the first time. So I think that really helped with like my run and gun style, which ended up translating to everything I do nowadays, filming events, where someone might be about to throw a fireball in there and I'm like, oh, I got to make sure I grab that, you being able to capture stuff first try. And that kind of really helped my background in video. But yeah, so from weddings just kind of went into doing a lot of other stuff, music videos, concerts, and then started to enter like the commercial world and filming for lots of local businesses. And then I can't remember the exact year, maybe 2017-ish. I met Wes, and when he was with a different DMO, and he would hit me up to film some of their events, the large events, a lot of things that they were doing, festivals and stuff like that. And then 2020 COVID happened, and that was crazy. Weddings definitely took a really big hit during that time, and then things worked out to where I ended up working for Wes at his DMO at the time, and worked there for 3.5 years and filmed all kinds of stuff, learning about the DMO world from there. And then I left about 2 years ago to kind of just pursue my own ventures and things like that. And but me and Wes, we kept in great contact throughout as he transitioned over to Visit Lodi. And then things just worked out recently to where it made sense for me to re-enter the DMO world again. And we still had a great relationship, and so he brought me on the team, and it's been fantastic. Very very new to Visit Lodi currently, but it's just been we have a lot of really big goals, and just to add a little bit to what you were saying about West too, about just kind of being a trailblazer. Definitely it has pushed me in my career too, because it's like he would have an event or an idea or something like that, and it would never be like, okay, let's just film it. It was like, okay, how can we take this to the next level, and how can we push this beyond a normal traditional video? And he'll have crazy ideas, or even just when I would have ideas that were kind of out of the box, he would always just say, "Yes, let's do it. What do you need from me?" So it's definitely been great to have that kind of leadership to help push the videos and the storytelling in a new direction.
I love that. And going back to your background, starting in weddings, if I was, not really thinking it through, and I heard you say, "Well, I started with weddings," I think a lot of people would say, "Well, that doesn't really prepare you for tourism." But when you look at what a wedding is, for one, it's the most important day of someone's life. Hopefully, of course, with some of today's marriage trends, maybe it's in the top three because maybe they'll have three weddings in their life. But I would say for most people, it's the most important day of their life. And so, from a stakes perspective, just like how critical it is to get it right, the pressure of that is really, really high. And if you have the attention to detail to make an incredible wedding video experience for a bride, you can do just about anything, right? And so I think for people that are listening, events are such an important part of what most destinations do, that understanding how to get the most out of an event as if the stakes were as high as they are in a wedding, I think that actually brings with it a unique skill set that's really important. So I want to make sure anybody that's listening connects those dots of just how valuable starting out with weddings is. And then I want to get into your role with video production at Visit Lodi, because I think there's a lot of destinations who have debated, do I bring a full-time video person in-house or do I continue to outsource video? And I want to understand from your perspective, A, what types of projects you're working on that Wes has you doing, and B, why is that something that is important enough to be in-house as opposed to just hiring a vendor when you need that type of production?
I think it's fantastic to have in-house because I'm not just really getting hired to shoot a project as it's already done. I'm kind of there from the beginning phases of maybe just the idea of a project or an event or anything like that. I'm there from the start. I'm there through the planning phases. I'm there through all the ideas, putting all this together. And then when it comes time to film the video, I have a lot more background before we even start. And so it's able to really help craft the ideas to not just be like, okay, let's make a sick video, but more of like, okay, I know what this event means. I know what this marketing campaign means. I know what we're trying to accomplish way at the beginning. And so that helps me to really develop the ideas and the video properly.
Great. And I'm hearing you, and I think about, so we've added video to our team as well. There's a guy named Matt Henson who runs all of our video content, and it's interesting because historically I've come up with a lot of ideas for video, but I've never been the point and shoot guy, right? Like, I don't know equipment wise what goes into it, shot list and planning wise. I'm sure if I was the one coming up with some of that stuff, I'd make a lot of mistakes. And so what I've found historically is I would come up with an idea, even discuss it with the client, huge mistake. And then I would go to Matt and say, okay, how realistic is this? The client's interested in this. He's like, what's the budget? And I tell him the budget, and he's like, no, it's not realistic. And so I love the idea of having someone with video background and experience involved from the ideation phase. Because for one, you bring a technical understanding to an ideation discussion or brainstorming discussion that the other people in the room who may not have experience with that aren't going to be able to understand, and it just makes the output that much better because the ideation phase already has video baked in, and then when you go to actually produce, you're not saying, okay, hold on, we have to change everything before we go into production.
Yeah, definitely. I think the collaboration is just like a huge part of that too, because, like you said, having multiple minds together working on something can definitely bring different knowledges and different aspects. I mean, having Matt on your team, he was able to bring his ideas from a technical aspect or a creative aspect, and then having people who see it from the logical or the financial side or just a different creative vision. I think having all those in one pot together definitely is just a huge win for everybody.
Awesome. Tell me your most fun project that you've worked on so far at Visit Lodi.
Man, well, I've only been here for like a week.
Nice.
But I have been shooting stuff for Visit Lodi prior for the past year. We did a really fun, just like a marketing photo shoot last year and video shoot, and it was cool just kind of going around the city and just finding our favorite breweries or favorite scenic spots around town. Lodi has a really fantastic farmers market that happens like downtown Lodi, and it just stretches the entire street, and it has like the brick roads and stuff, so it has like that old time look. And then you have this farmers market right in the middle of the street, and the whole half the population of Lodi shows up for this, and more from beyond Lodi. So it ends up being just visually just looks stunning because it's very packed and has that awesome look. And then the sun drops right behind there. Anyways, it was a very beautiful shoot. But that was fun, getting to shoot downtown and be able to capture those moments and capture vendors and capture people that are there too, and be able to tell, their stories and from their view as well.
So, from a production perspective, there's some interesting shifts that we're just seeing in content in general. One of the things that I've seen is that production value is less valued by the consumer than it used to be. Now, that doesn't mean just go make a bunch of crappy videos, but some of the videos that are getting the best performance online and the most interest and attention online are videos that have a much more organic feel to them, and there wasn't like a 8-person production team with a sound boom and lighting and all that kind of stuff. Instead, it was more like it felt like what someone would experience in the destination. It seems a lot more real, right? And so, how do you manage these two competing things that you, as a video producer, you love cinema. You want to make an incredible production, but you also want it to resonate and connect with the consumer. And those sometimes are a little bit opposing priorities. So, how do you manage those two components of your job? Guys, I'm pretty excited. I think I've struck a nerve with something, and we've been talking a lot. You've heard on this show talking about the need for people to go from tactician to strategist. That's an effort that we've been working on inside of Brand Revolt for a long time, and one of the components of that is recognizing that the traditional agency of record engagement isn't exactly what we want to be chasing, because everybody's kind of chasing the same thing. We've found a really interesting success point with conversations where I've gone to destinations and I've said, hey, what's the unique challenge that you've wanted to solve for a long time, but your AOR hasn't had the chance to get to it, or that you and your team haven't had a chance to get to it? And it's resulted in some of the most fun and intellectually challenging conversations that I've had so far. We've had one destination that's got us building a LinkedIn strategy. Another destination asked for a corporate partnerships strategy. Another one asked us to build a Reddit strategy. And in exploring these different strategies that need to be developed, especially with all the changes that are happening in the world, there's not a destination out there that doesn't have one or two things that they haven't been able to tackle yet. And for us as an organization at Brand Revolt, we really are finding a lot of joy and excitement in the opportunity to tackle some of these problems and blaze trails that haven't yet been blazed. And so I wanted to invite all of you, if there's that nagging issue, that thing you've wanted to get to for a couple of years, but you just haven't had time to solve it, or if there's something that maybe one of your directors or C-level people have been asking you to solve, but it's been on your list, you haven't been able to get to it, or maybe an agency hasn't gotten you what you needed yet with that specific thing, give us a narrow strategy project opportunity, and I'm extremely confident that my team can really help dig into that without having to turn over the keys of the entire marketing plan to this agency. Instead, we can really tackle that narrow strategy for you and make sure that it's something that's effective, solves the problem, and can be built upon for the future. If this sounds interesting to you, hit me up at adam@thebrandrevolt.com. I would love to talk to you. I know that every single destination has something like this that they just need to get to, and I think we can help. adam@thebrandrevolt.com.
Yeah, I think this, even touching back on our earlier subject, this almost goes back to my wedding background, because a lot of times at weddings, you don't have a chance to set up a ton of lights. You don't have a chance to control your environment. And so you're really just kind of stuck in filming with whatever's there. You can maybe control location, but you're just filming with whatever's there. And so having that background, I really dive deep into storytelling. I mean, that's really what drew me to video in the first place, is storytelling and telling epic stories. And being so much embedded into that, I've really come to realize that equipment is not everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you have the newest camera, or the most expensive lens, or a ton of lights, or anything like that. If you can tell a really compelling story, that's what matters most, and that is what is gonna hook people and keep them watching, which is what we really want in the long run. So, um, yeah, just being able to manage that aspect of things when it comes to tourism and DMO stuff is just, we really kind of look at things and be like, okay, does this, when we're looking at a shoot, or like, does this need to be super visually compelling, or do we just need a really, really good story here? And then if the second is the case, then it's being able to tell that story, even if it means making it look like a documentary with, the shaky camera look, or just, it doesn't have to be the best lighting or anything like that. Having that story is really what matters most.
I'm glad you said equipment isn't everything, because I think there's a lot of destinations right now thinking about bringing someone like yourself in-house. And I think there's a lot of people who would walk in and have all the equipment and say, I am an incredible video production person. And to the layman who may not understand video production, it's like, well, I mean, they've got the equipment. They must be great at what they do. How do you actually evaluate someone that you're interviewing to bring video production in-house? How do you know, as a non-video production person, if this is the right person to tell your story?
I mean, that is really just would come from looking at their portfolio and kind of being able to see what they've done in the past. Is it really just a ton of beautiful shots? Or are they able to tell like a story? And that doesn't necessarily always mean like audio and like, interviews or things like that. Like, are they able to even visually tell a story? Because I've done things where it's just edited to music, but I still try to tell a story. Just kind of anything I do, whether that be, just documenting things that visually make sense from like a chronological standpoint. Are you able to visually tell a story, and does it move you, with just the filming techniques? I'd say that would be a big thing to look for. And yeah, just a quickly touch back on what you were saying about equipment isn't everything. Like, there's a really cool quote I heard back when I was first starting, over a decade ago, and it was, the best camera you have is the one that's always on you. So nowadays it's, cell phones are insane, 4K
Yeah.
iPhones, it's, some 4K 120 filming in log, and just insanely quality. And we're lucky enough to have a lot of this equipment right in our pockets. So there's been a lot of times where I haven't had my camera with me, and I just pull out my phone and I get the shot. And then that shot ends up making it in a video, whether it's mixed in with high quality camera footage or mixed in with GoPro footage, it doesn't matter. Like, it's really just about being able to get that shot and making sure you're there to not miss that shot. And then how to incorporate that into your storytelling.
Great. Based on some of the stuff that you've said here, I'm starting to wonder if, for a destination, one of the best things you can do is use multiple kind of freelance video professionals and evaluate the quality that you're getting from them prior to pulling the trigger to bring them on full time, right? Like, at least you get to see, okay, how good is this one at video storytelling versus this freelancer that I'm using for this project? And after enough, and what it sounds like happened with you and Wes, after seeing your work enough and doing enough projects, it was like, yeah, this is somebody I can trust to be here full time and be in house. Is that a good way to think about it from a logistical perspective?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, take your time, trying out different people and seeing who you really vibe with, and who can really just kind of understand your DMO, because I think that is a huge part of if you're going to bring a video person on your team is, do they understand the vision of the company? Because that will translate into every aspect, whether that be a storytelling video or whether that be just a super sick ad that's just needs to be high paced. It still has to portray the vision of the company. So it's really just kind of developing that relationship with your videographer from the get go and seeing if that vibe is really there. Because honestly, from a technical aspect, technically, camera techniques can be learned. Like those can be learned with equipment or studying or things like that. But being able to tell a story or portray a vision of a company, that's something that's kind of has to be already there.
Yeah.
So it's really just kind of having that vibe with a person, and then they can get there as far as making cool videos. That can happen later. I would say really having that vibe would be the biggest start.
Yeah, I think you're illustrating the difference between instinct and technique, right? Like
Yes, yes.
instinct is something that kind of comes natural when you start doing videos, recognizing what part of the event is going to be a really engaging part of the story. That's instinct. How to shoot it and which camera to use, all of that can be taught. I think that's a great point that you bring up. If we look to the future, what are some of the projects, video production projects that you have on your roadmap that you're most excited about? Like, what do you want to bring to this video production role for Visit Lodi?
Yeah, really just kind of telling a lot of stories. That's honestly my favorite part about doing this is just being able to um, tell stories and kind of just be a part of someone's life. You never know if the video you make that might be a highlight in someone's life. Maybe it's they just started a business, and the video you make for them and your DMO advertises of them on social media, maybe that's their one big break that helps them get a consistent clientele and consistent feet in the door and things like that. And so being a part of that journey for people is really like the most exciting thing for me. And then just kind of helping the DMO grow and Visit Lodi grow, and helping tell not necessarily tell more stories, but just kind of grow in a way that we bring more visitors here. And say one of the most exciting things we're talking about working on is kind of a partner co-op program through Visit Lodi, to where we're going to have partners can contact Visit Lodi for videography services, and then they can get a nice, well-made video, whether that be of just their business or whether that be an interview style video, whatever they need, and then they can get that through Visit Lodi, and then we collaborate with them on creating the video, and then how we can build that video to also advertise our location and bring people from out of town to come see their business and then come see Lodi. So we're working on that program right now, which we're pretty excited to launch that as well.
So I love that program. I think every destination should actually have a program like that, because every destination is starved for content, and it's also really expensive to just create an unlimited amount of content. But if you can figure out a way to get the individual stakeholder to contribute, you now get to build that video content within your brand structure to make sure that it still scratches the itches that Visit Lodi has, and it's that dual value, dual purpose use video. I think that's going to be a really great program. Is there anything that scares you about that program?
Not honestly, not necessarily, because we kind of really mapped it out really like detailed. To add to one of your points on your monologue, we used Claude to kind of get this idea off the ground. We looked at, okay, how could we start a video co-op program, and what would that look like? And then we used that to help develop the base of this program, and really, it really pulled from all aspects of video production from all around, and what those specifics would look like. So we have this, I mean, it gave us like a 17-page document, like so detailed, of every single thing you can think of that would go into this. So then once that shot out, once Claude gave that to us, we've been reviewing it, and I read everything, and that just made the nerves kind of go away. Like, wow, this covers every single base, and make sure that we know what we're getting as far as Visit Lodi, but then also the partners know what they're getting, and what this program is and what this program isn't. And then it basically just kind of keeps everybody on the same page. And yeah, it's just, we're really excited. It's almost looking at every aspect of the program, we're just like, it's a win-win for everybody.
I love it. I love it. So in terms of video production, give me your best piece of advice you can give those that are out there listening. How can they do the very best job from a video perspective that they can?
I would say, if you're looking to bring a videographer onto your DMO team, make sure you find someone that you can ultimately connect with first, because, technical things can definitely be taught and learned along the road. But someone who's willing to learn and who's willing to, want to learn about the DMO and want to learn about how to market a DMO, that would be one of the first things. And then I'd say just another thing to keep in mind if you're going to bring, a videographer onto your team is you may need to be flexible with them, and be willing to work along with what works best for them, because as a creative, sometimes it's hard to, be like, okay, 8 a.m., I have to start being creative at that exact time. So it might make sense to, if you bring a creative onto your team, to give them a more flexible schedule, because if you give them that flexibility to just be creative when it works best for them, you're going to get the best work out of that. And so I've been very, very lucky at where I'm in that. Our CEO understands that perspective, and he's given me the flexibility to create when it works best for me, and then it just makes me more excited and more pumped to go do stuff and to just create stuff. Like even just today, I woke up at sunrise because I really wanted to go get a super cool shot of people running by the lake with the sun coming up and the trees behind, because it's just something that I wanted to create for our DMO, and I really wanted that shot. And so, having that flexibility to do that has really helped and basically helped me to be creative without limits.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, this has been fantastic, Jesse. Congrats on the new role at Visit Lodi. I can tell you're going to have a great time there, and you'll bring a lot of value to that team. If people want to learn more about you or Visit Lodi, what's the best way for them to do so?
Social media, at Visit Lodi, or our website, visitlodi.com. We're constantly posting stuff. We're very active on socials, and going to be doing tons more on socials now that, I'm going to be making videos and photography and all the content. So yeah, definitely social media.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, Jesse. This has been great.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been fantastic.
Absolutely. And thanks everybody for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to leave us a rating or a review. It helps us continue to bring you amazing guests like Jesse. Thanks everybody, and have a great week. Guys, have you created your profile yet on Tourism IQ? Tourism IQ has become one of the very best resources in the destination marketing industry. You can see all the latest jobs there, and Lori Farr, who many of you may know from when she was doing the travel vertical, she's the editorial director at Tourism IQ, and she puts together all the latest available jobs. She tells us where people have gone when they take a new job. It's called People on the Move. She posts the latest RFPs. We have a lot of thought leadership there from different leaders in the industry. And really, Tourism IQ has become one of the very best places for you to develop professionally in the destination marketing space. It's got all the resources you need, and it's growing every day. We have over 530 active profile users. These are people that have created profiles on the site. And then we have another 2,800 active lookers who haven't created a profile, but they are there consuming the content and revisit the site on an ongoing basis. This site is growing every day. I'm so proud of what it's become, and I need everyone to go create a profile and see the incredible resources that are being posted for our industry on a daily basis. mytourismiq.com is the URL. Please go check it out. Fill out a profile on mytourismiq.com.